Okay, I want to talk about J K Rowling, okay, the author of the Harry Potter books and other books, okay, and the amount of anger that like is aimed towards her now from some people, okay, and the accusations that people claim that she is transphobic, that she hates trans people, that she's a bigot, that she's always like writing like derogatory transphobic stuff about trans people, okay, and I just want to have a little talk about that and about why I think that her opinions are not coming from a place of hatred of trans people, okay, and that some people, whether you think she's right or not, I think some people have misunderstood some of the things that she said, and some people, like, if they just don't like her opinions, will just say that she's being hateful, or that she's being horrible, or that she's a bigot. Okay, now, first of all, I want to address the concern that she has, and some other people seem to express, is the idea that if you allow anybody who claims to identify as a woman into women's spaces, like whether we're talking about women's prisons, toilets, changing rooms, wherever, that she seems to think that there is a danger there, okay? And some people, they seem to claim that she's being transphobic, that she's saying that trans women are more likely to be dangerous than cis women, that they're more likely to be violent, that they're more likely to be aggressive, or more likely to want to harm cis women, okay? And I don't think that is what she's saying, okay? I don't think the worry is that trans women are more likely to be dangerous. I think what the worry is that if you let anybody identify as a woman, that you can get somebody who is not trans, but say like a sexual predator or somebody like that, they can pretend to be a trans woman in order to get into women's spaces, okay, if they want to, okay? I think that is the concern that is being expressed, okay? I don't think it's a case of saying that trans women are more dangerous or more likely to be violent, okay? I think the worry is that somebody pretending to be a trans woman, okay, could be dangerous, because it could potentially happen, okay? Now, when it comes to prisons, now, I don't think that a trans woman should be put into a male prison, okay? I think that would obviously not be a good idea. That would not be safe for them. Okay, I'm not saying that, but I also think if some man had been convicted of rape or some kind of abuse against women, and he's meant to go to prison, and he just said well, I identify as a woman, you've got to put me in a woman's prison. I think well, obviously that would be really stupid, okay? I mean, that would be really dangerous. I think that is what the worry is there. It's not so much thinking that trans women are more dangerous. The worry is that if you just let somebody identify as a woman, when they still look like a man, they haven't made any changes or any attempt to look like a woman, or they don't seem like a woman in any way, it's just it would be really silly, okay? And I think it should go without saying, if somebody's been convicted of raping women or something like that, that they shouldn't be able to go to a woman's prison, okay? I know it's sort of, it's kind of difficult, because then you ask the question, well, at what point then, would you say that it's okay for somebody to go to a woman's prison? I mean, I wouldn't send a trans woman to a male prison, but then, then there's a question is, well, what if somebody hasn't, they haven't been through the, transitioning process yet, so they still look like a man, but they say they're a woman. I understand that it gets extremely difficult and extremely complicated, but people can't even express the slight concern about people pretending to be trans without people suggesting that you're transphobic, or you can't even sort of address the slight concern that somebody who is violent or abusive towards women could pretend to be a trans woman without people then suggesting that you're hating on trans women, or that you're trying to say that trans women are violent or abusive and all that. And I don't think that is what J K Rowling is saying, okay? I think she's expressing a concern that a lot of people probably have, but are maybe not going to express, because they are worried about being labelled transphobic, or labelled a hater or anything like that, okay? And bearing in mind as well, I mean, some sexual predator was pretending to be a trans woman so they could get into women's spaces, they're a danger to trans women as well, okay? So I don't think this is being transphobic to express, okay, that kind of worry, okay? And then there was this book that J K Rowling wrote called Troubled Blood, and this was about a serial killer who dressed as a woman, okay? And of course this provoked a lot of outrage among some people as well, again saying that it's transphobic, when actually the character was not a trans woman. This was a man dressing as a woman. He was described as a transvestite, which is not the same as a trans woman. That's, a transvestite is somebody say a man who wants to dress as a woman but might not actually want to be a woman. Okay, I think people expressing that there's a concern, you want trans women and trans men to have, all the same rights, okay, as cis men and cis women, but there is the danger of people who, you'll always get some people who, they may pretend otherwise, okay, and, the sort of worry about, a man pretending to be a woman in order to get into women's spaces when he might be a danger to women, or the other thing is, in sport as well, if you say, anybody who identifies as a woman can participate in women's sports, well, obviously, as a generalisation, men are stronger than women the majority of time, okay? If you put men against women, in most sports, men are going to thrash women, okay? When it comes to physical strength, okay? Obviously, if somebody is still, got a masculine body, they are at an advantage over the other women, okay? If they've got, the high levels of testosterone still in their body, they are at an advantage over the women, okay?
Now, this is the first year that a trans woman is in the competition. How do you feel about that?
Amazing. I feel honored to be a part of history. I have a lot of incredible trans friends who are athletes, and so we're all inspired this woman's competing.
Uh-huh. And have you actually ever met Heather Swanson?
No, I've never competed against her before, no.
She's not exactly your average trans athlete.
Well, what is an average trans athlete? Honestly, I find that kind of bigoted, David.
Okay. Heather Swanson is actually joining us now. Miss Swanson, how does it feel to be competing today?
I can't tell you how free I feel now that I've started identifying as a woman. Now that I can compete as female, I'm ready to smash the other girls.
And is it correct you just started identifying as female 2 weeks ago?
I'm not here to talk about my transition.
Okay, and this tweet that Joanna made here, right, where she says, people who menstruate, I'm sure there used to be a word for those people. Somebody help me out. Wumben, Wimbund, Woomud, or whatever it is she's saying. Well, obviously she's being sarcastic, okay, about the fact that they're not using the word woman, okay, they're saying people who menstruate, okay. Now, people that got, angry with her over this tweet, I think that they are being hypocritical, okay, because you can guarantee, right, these same people that will get angry at Joanna for making a tweet like this, before they'd seen this tweet, if you'd gone up to them before they'd seen this tweet and said, what's a period? They'd say, oh, well, it's something that a woman has, once a month. Or if you said to them, where do babies come from? They'll say, well, it comes from a woman, okay? They would have said that, without even thinking about it, okay? So, for them to get, really, annoyed and angry over a tweet like this, I kind of think is just, hypocritical, and it's people sort of just having an emotional reaction, without actually, really thinking what it's about, okay? Because, if you look at the, difference between men and women, physically, their bodies, I'm not talking about their minds for a minute, just their bodies, okay? Now, men, as a generalization, are, bigger and stronger than women, okay? But women's bodies are made for, creating life, okay? So women, they ovulate once a month, okay? And women's bodies create life and carry life and give birth, and, men, obviously, they produce sperm, okay? I know I'm stating the obvious here, but I'm just saying this is the difference, between the male body and the female body, okay? So to say, women have periods, or women menstruate, yeah, that is perfectly accurate. Now, I understand that, if you had, millions of women, out of those millions, you are going to get, a couple, just perhaps a couple that might say, well, okay, I have this, female body, but, I don't feel like a woman. I feel like a man, okay? I feel like I'm in the wrong body. I feel like, I want to transition. I want to become a man, okay? Which is fair enough, alright? However, to say, like, that you can't say anymore that it's women who menstruate or it's women who have babies, like for fear of being labelled like transphobic. That's like saying, you know, if you were to make a generalisation about humans, like you can't say human beings have 2 legs, because if you say that, then somebody might come along and say, like, well, you know, that's prejudice because you're not taking into consideration people that have lost a limb, or somebody that might have been born with 1 leg or something like that, okay? Or if you say, like, humans, they see with their eyes and they hear with their ears, somebody might say, well, that's prejudice because you're not taking into consideration people that are blind or people that are deaf. You know, it's like, it's a generalisation, okay? Like, the overwhelming majority of the time, right, if you go and ask somebody, like somebody who menstruates, if you go and ask them, what gender do you identify as? The overwhelming majority of the time, they're going to say, well, a woman, of course. All right, okay. Now, there are some people that have said things like, they've said, like, oh, but, you know, saying people who menstruate are women is like being dismissive of women that have been through the menopause, or women that have got, like, some medical condition like polycystic ovaries, so they don't menstruate. And I kind of think, like, well, it's not being dismissive of them, really, is it? It's just like, you know, saying people who menstruate are women does not mean that you're not saying that there are also women who do not menstruate anymore because, like, they've gone through the menopause, or that there are some women who they have some medical condition or some problem that stops them from menstruating, or that there are some people who feel like they are in the wrong body, and although they might menstruate, they don't feel like a woman. They, like, would rather transition and have a man's body, okay? I don't think that making a statement like, oh, it's women who menstruate is actually, like, excluding all those people. It's just like, you know, the majority of the time, right, if somebody says, I'm on my period, the majority of the time, the overwhelming majority of the time, that statement is coming from a woman, okay? And everybody knows that, okay? And it is, like, kind of, like, a bit sad that we kind of have to police everything that we say, because you could say something completely innocent and people will take it the wrong way and say, you're transphobic, you're homophobic, you're racist, you're sexist, you're saying this wrong, you're thinking this wrong, okay? It's like somebody somewhere always wants to police everything that people say, okay? I also think that some of the people that are so quick to call Joanna Rowling a bigot, I think that they are being very bigoted themselves, okay? Because they're the ones that are having the opinion that, like, if you don't agree with everything they say, you're automatically in the wrong. Like, everything they say is right and everything you say is automatically wrong. And they are 100% good people, and if you disagree with them, you are 100% a bad person. Okay, it's a very black and white way of thinking. Okay, because with a lot of people's views, when it comes to different people's views, there isn't just black and white. There's a lot of grey area in between, okay? As in, like, there is a difference between somebody who is, like, the super woke person who will say people who menstruate, people who have babies because they don't want to say man or woman, okay, because they don't want to assign a gender to you before asking you what you want to be called, okay? There's a difference between that and then somebody at the actual other extreme, being somebody that actually really does just, like, hate anybody who's trans, anybody who's gay, anybody who doesn't fit their mold, okay? You know, the actual... You know, you can get the two extremes. I think, like, the radicals on the left and the radicals on the right are both a bit crazy, okay? Because you get radicals on either side, alright, okay? You'll get some people who say everything's sexist, everything's racist, everything's transphobic, and you've got to tiptoe on eggshells, because if you say the wrong thing, you'll get accused of being prejudiced, okay? But then when you get the extremist on the right, you can get people that are sexist, are racist, are transphobic, but will say that they're not, okay? But you get lots of grey area in the middle, okay? And I think the people that, like, have this idea, whether either side, the people that have this idea that I'm right, anybody who thinks different from me is wrong, I think they're the ones that are being bigoted, okay? So some of the people that are calling J K Rowling a bigot, I think they're being very bigoted, because they're not even attempting to look at things from her point of view or from anybody else's point of view. They're just sort of saying, like, if you don't agree with me 100%, you hate trans people, okay? Even though J K Rowling herself has said that she knows and loves some trans people, okay? So I think she's got some people that she knows that are trans, who she's friends with. I think there is at least one person who is trans that has, like, said that she has been supportive of them. And also, like, J K Rowling says, like, that, you know, if somebody was really being hateful against trans people, that she would be, like, marching against the hate, okay? So whether you agree with her opinions or not, I'm not saying that I'm not saying her opinions are definitely right or definitely wrong, but either way, I really, really do not think that it's coming from a place of hatred of trans people, okay? And I think people to just say, like, if you don't agree with their opinions or you dare question anything that goes against, like, the woke brigade, that you're somehow being, like, hateful and bigoted. I think they're the ones that are being quite bigoted, really, because they're not even making an effort to sort of, like, understand, like, her point of view or anybody else's point of view, okay? Also, Joanna Rowling has done her best to be woke in the Harry Potter books as well. She made Dumbledore gay, even though, like, he wasn't described as gay in any of the books or any of the films, but apparently she said she always imagined him as being gay. And when they were making, like, the Harry Potter films, apparently, like, there was some line that the producers wanted Dumbledore to say, but Joanna Rowling said, no, Dumbledore would not say that because he's gay. Okay, so I don't know what line it was he was meant to say, but there was a line that she specifically didn't want him to say because it wouldn't work because she'd always imagined him as gay. Okay, and in some, like, play, some, like, theatre production or something that they did of Harry Potter, she was quite happy for Hermione to be black, even though, like, in all the films she was white, and in the cover of the books she was white as well. But people, like, they make the argument that they said, like, oh, but she was never described as white in the books. She was described as, like, having brown curly hair, but she was never described as, like, being a white girl. But in the films she was white, and on the cover of the books she was white, and in artwork that Joanna Rowling had done in the past she was white, but they made her black when they did this play, and Joanna Rowling was absolutely fine. She said, she loved Black Hermione. Okay, so she's been sort of, like, quite keen to sort of go along with, like, the woke brigade most of the time. Okay, so, I mean, I don't think she's somebody, like, some people have described her as far right and stuff like that. It's like, oh, I really don't think so. Okay, I really don't think that's the case with her. Okay, and this is the other tweet that upset quite a few people. It says, dress however you please, call yourself whatever you like, sleep with any consenting adult who will have you, live your best life in peace and security, but force women out of their jobs for stating that sex is real. Okay, a few people were upset by the part where she says, sleep with any consenting adult who will have you. Okay, because they kind of took it as kind of a slur against trans people, like suggesting, like, oh, not many people will have you, so just sleep with anybody that will have you. Okay, and this is one of these things where I think people are reading too much into what somebody says and sort of, like, taking a different meaning from it. You know, like, there's always sometimes when we will say something and people will, like, read too much into it and take some kind of offence, and you kind of think, like, well, hold on a minute, I didn't mean it like that, okay? Because I kind of think that Joanna here, like, she's sort of being accepting of everybody and saying that, like, you should be able to do, like, whatever you want, and her emphasis here is with who you sleep with, as long as it's consenting and as long as they're an adult. Okay, I think that's what the emphasis is on. I don't think that she's, like, actually being, like, derogatory and being like, oh my god, who would have you? I don't think that is the meaning behind it. Okay, because, like, I mean, I would say with anybody, whether you're gay, straight, cis, trans, whatever. Okay, like, well, yeah, sleep with whoever will have you, because, like, obviously if somebody is a gay man, most likely they're not gonna want to sleep with a woman, but that doesn't mean that they hate women, does it? It just means that that's not, like, what they're sexually turned on by. Okay, so I think this is, like, kind of where the sleep with any adult who will have you. I think that the emphasis is on as long as they're an adult and as long as it's consensual. I don't think it's meant to be an insult against, trans people. Okay, just the same way as, like if you're gay and you don't want to sleep with somebody who is the opposite sex from you want to sleep with somebody who's the same sex as you, yeah, fine, okay. Or if you're straight, you want to sleep with somebody who's the opposite sex, okay. Now, like, when it comes to trans people, okay, that's what I think she means, okay. And it's like, okay, when it comes to trans people, it is true that there will be some cis people who do not want to sleep with somebody who's trans, okay. Like, there might be some, like, heterosexual men who, if they want a woman, they want a woman who has always been a woman, not a woman who, like, was raised as a boy, okay. And also, like, some heterosexual women may want a man who has always been a man and wasn't raised as a girl, okay. But then to some people, it doesn't matter. They don't care. Like, they're like, well, it doesn't matter about about like what you were raised as. Like if you're a man or you're a woman now, I don't mind, okay? And the thing is people do have their right to their preference, okay, when it comes to who they want to sleep with. And I understand why this might be hurtful to some trans people, okay? I can understand why that's hurtful, but it's like, you know, people do have their preferences, okay? Another thing that I think that some people don't quite understand, right, is that like sometimes people's like beliefs can be a kind of generational thing. And what I mean is, like, it's harder, like, for people who are of, like, a slightly older generation to quite fully understand the mindset of the very woke younger generation, okay? And what I mean is like, say, like, with the stars of Harry Potter, the ones that have come out, like, in defense of J K Rowling, it seems to be more the older actors, okay? Well, it is more the younger actors that have disagreed with her, okay? Apart from the one that played Luna Lovegood, her real name is Ivana Lynch, apparently, okay? She stuck up for J K Rowling. But the main characters, the three main stars, you know, the ones that, like, you know, owe, like, all their fame and fortune to J K Rowling, and the ones that wouldn't have become so famous if it wasn't for J K Rowling, and, you know, the ones that were made basically by J K Rowling are the ones that are quite quick to push her under the bus, ironically. Okay, that is Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, and Emma Watson, the three main stars of Harry Potter. They've been sort of like quick to disagree.
I'm here for all of the witches.
Okay, fair enough. I'm not saying that they should have to agree with all of her opinions, but it's the fact that they have been, like, so quick to push her under the bus and, like, virtual signals for everybody else about how they're the good people with the woke opinions that are so much better than J.K. Rowling. The fact that they have been so quick to be so bitchy about her, like, when they literally owe her everything, you know, I'm not saying that they should have to agree with all of her opinions, but the fact that they've been just so unsupportive of her when they literally owe her, like, so much gratitude, okay. But anyway, the actors that have sort of, you know, come out in defense of her have mostly been the older ones, okay? And I kind of think this is a generation thing. Like, people, like, of a different generation were sort of, like, who weren't brought up with all this woke, kind of thing that's going on right now. Like, I think they can understand Joanna's point of view a little bit more, okay? Now, to be clear here, I am glad that times are changing and that people are becoming more understanding to trans people and, well, anybody that may have been discriminated against in the past. Well, I mean, everybody's been discriminated against to some degree, but you know what I mean. Like, I mean, trans people have been, like, really, like, very, very discriminated against in the past, I think, or unaccepted in the past, okay? So the fact that people are being more accepting and more understanding to this sort of way of thinking, and what trans people go through and all that, I think is a good thing, okay? But I kind of think, like, can people, like, understand, like, just a little bit, though, why some people, who are slightly of an older generation to the, like, regular woke crowd, why they might find it just a little bit difficult to understand where you're coming from if you say something like, oh, no, you can't say women have periods, it's people that have periods. You can't say women have babies, it's people that have babies, okay? You can't say that just because somebody looks like a woman and they have breasts and a vagina, that means they're a woman. Or you can't say just because somebody's got a penis, that makes them a man. You've got to ask them their identity first. Can you not, like, understand a little bit why people, like, of a slightly older generation might be a little bit, like, confused by that, okay? And that, you know, it doesn't mean that they have a searing hatred of trans people or anything, or that they don't want to be unsympathetic to trans people. It's just that, like, it might, like, be a little bit hard for people to get their head round. And, like, I mean, personally, like, I do sympathise with trans people. I can't even begin to imagine what it must be like, you know, to be born, you know, to feel like you're born in the wrong body, you know, for your gender, or like to go through the transitioning process, or to tell, like, your family and friends and people you know that you're transitioning because you feel like, you know, you're in the wrong body. I can't even begin to imagine what that's like, okay? Like, I do sympathise with that, okay? It must be, like, one of the most toughest things ever to go through, okay? But I don't think, like, if people sort of question certain things, like if they say, like, well, hold on, if anybody can, you know, just identify as a woman and go into women's prisons, to just sort of, like, question, like, well, is that really safe? Like, Could somebody be dangerous? Could somebody be pretending to be a trans? I don't think it's transphobic to just ask that question, or to say, like, with sport, like, again, if anybody can just identify as a woman and participate in a women's sport, it's like, well, hold on a minute. If somebody's still, like, got the strength of a man, that's not really fair, okay? You know, or to say, like, well, you know, it sounds a bit silly to say, like, oh, you can't say women have periods anymore, even though, like, it is women that have periods, okay? Like, and that's not to be disrespectful for the very, very few people who have periods that might identify as a man. I'm not trying to be disrespectful then, but, like, I mean, it is overwhelmingly women that have periods, and, like, a trans man will, when they transition, they won't have periods anymore, okay? So we are talking about a tiny amount of the population here. So, like, I don't think it's, like, transphobic to say, yeah, women have periods, okay? I think that's, you know, it's going too far. It's like people feel like they have to tiptoe on eggshells in case they offend somebody, okay? There's a difference between being, like, really, you know, bigoted, hateful, prejudiced, and then just being somebody who's a regular person who you're trying to be understanding, but you feel like you have to be careful of everything you say in case you get accused of being hateful or being bigoted or something like that, okay? There's a little bit of a difference. Okay, so basically what I'm saying is J K Rowling, whether you agree with her or not, I really, really do not think she is coming from a place of hating trans people, and I do not think she is a horrible person who would be dismissive of somebody if they say that they are trans, okay? And I think that some of the hatred and anger that is aimed at her is, like, gone a bit too far, okay? So that is all I've got to say about that for now. Thank you for listening.